It ain't hard to see that you got other plans. They ain't got no God, so they all failures. If you listen, not hit, man, I'm trying to tell you something is horribly wrong. They ain't trying to scare you. Walk around on eggshells, whole world nervous. If they really can't, cause this will serve its purpose. I ain't got no time no way. I ain't in no rush. Yes, you can be touched. Play pussy, get fucked. I just play the hand that God dealt me. Something ain't right, else you wouldn't have left me. Money problems, too far from wealthy. Never met when you first met me. Calling shots, that shit was never planned. But on the other hand, straight coming straight from the motherland. It ain't hard to see that you got other plans. It ain't rocket science, but I'm a clever man. Thorough in the flesh from the motherland.
Are you kidding me? Hey, y'all, it is a whole storm over here. which is why everything is messing up. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that,
Yes, I can
everybody.
hear you.
Yeah, it's a whole storm going on. So I had a whole intro song that I was going to introduce, but um, I'm not going to. So I do my usual intro, and then we can like get into it. So what's up, party people, to another episode of Who Actually Podcast. I'm your host, Be Too Groovy, and today we have some very special guests in the building, and we have a very like very awesome and like interesting umbrella of topics that we're gonna like digest and everything. But before we get into that, I'm gonna let my guests go ahead and introduce themselves to you all, and I guess we can go from Clarkson to Brew to Renee.
All right. Hey, everyone. What's up? What's up? I'm Clockson. Um, as far as introduction, I'm a writer, director, artist, and I play video games and I make video games as well. but uh, yeah, I study a lot of different topics, but that's just me. And I'll give you guys a quick description of my name, Clockson. It's actually an acronym I created about a year ago. It means consciousness, loyalty, observation, clarity, knowledge, self respect. The Y stands for the yin and yang of everything, like the balance of the universe. And the N stands for the will to never give up. So that's me. I'm Clockson.
I like that.
Thank you.
That's fire. So you're like so you said you like actually make video games and stuff. So like you know how to do like
Like,
coding and things of that nature.
yeah, to a light level. Like I do indie games, like the little the games you play on your phone. I made a few of those, and that's like a side gig that I want to focus more on when I get my bread up. Right now, I'm focusing on music production. Making beats, and maybe one day verbally rapping. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for
Hey
sure.
man, if your spirit is pushing you toward it, you probably are meant to do it. So I say
Yeah,
give it a shot.
yeah. So that's
All
me.
right, Blue.
Peace to the people. My name is Blue God Hoshigaki. I am an artist of multiple mediums, primarily music and I'd say visual art. Um, I'm also an astrologer and educator. I am a jack of all trades, master of some.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Master of most, I would say. All right, Renee, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Renee in Tune. Fun tidbit: Renee is my middle name. My first name is Lavinia. Though some know me by one name, some know me by the other, but I am both. I am a tarot reader slash astrologer, psychic intuitive. I am a mother, a poet. I love that you all are into music because I love music. I would consider myself a musical connoisseur. Um, I know about all types of music. I had one fun summer of making music myself, and it was absolutely exciting. I'd love to get back into it. I'm new to spoken word, so that's something that I'm working towards. I actually want to put together a project like that. But those are my little, you know, things that I'm into. I'd like to say I would consider myself somewhat of a mentor in the realm of metaphysical topics, just to put it in a nutshell. So, thank you for having me
Yeah,
here.
and and I will vouch for her when it comes to that. If you want like an accuracy on your life and situation, and you know the route you should take, you should definitely like. I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, I know, oh, I'm a psychic, oh, I have intuition, I'm connected to spirits." Sometimes they be capping. This goddess is not capping. Trust and believe when I say she's not capping. Um, so yeah. Um, Now that we got the introductions, let's get into what we're actually going to be talking about. So I've noticed that they are slowly but surely implementing what I like to call a digital plane. And what I mean by that is we have the spiritual plane, we have the physical plane, and then we have the digital plane. And what I mean by that is now it's the digital plane. And you know, if you don't know what I mean by plane of when I say plane, I mean like plane of existence, meaning we have an astral form, right? Where we can astral project, or that's when we feel so-called vibes and vibrations and the aura and the spirit, all that kind of stuff, prayer, manifestation, magic, all of that deals with the spiritual plane. The physical plane, what we can see, hear, feel, touch, our bodies, the trees outside, whatever, you know, uh, physical contact, which isn't really contact because two atoms can never touch, but that's besides the point. And so the digital plane will be basically a digital avatar of you. But think about it this way: these are layers. Think of the spiritual plane as one big box, right? And our soul is taken from that spiritual plane and put into another box, which is our physical bodies. And so now we're going to take that same consciousness, that same spirit, and put it into a third body, which would be the digital body. And you can, when you pass away, your spirit goes back to the spiritual plane, no problems. But what happens when that box is that opening to the next realm is closed? Because when if you're going to upload your consciousness onto the web, that's supposed to be for eternity. So that means you can never get to that next level. You can never escape. And after your body deteriorates, your consciousness won't even have a vessel to even go back to if it got out of the digital realm. You get me? So that is kind of like that is living on the 3D for real, for real. Like if you want to look at it that way, that's really living on the 3D. So we're gonna kind of talk about some of the things that's leading to this and what they're trying to do, and all of this is basically going to be more or less opinionated, some factuals, and we're just gonna see where the ball rolls. So the first thing I want to talk about, though, and we're actually going to kind of get into robotics, which is going to lead to the digital plane. We are facing a jobless crisis right now, and what I mean by that is there is a food shortage coming for two reasons. One, people refuse to work. People are have been conditioned to not want work and kind of want to depend on either themselves, which isn't a bad thing, or they want to depend on the system, and that's kind of like a rapture in a sense. Like, cause I honestly I feel like the rapture has happened, and we can kind of talk about that too. But that's a rapture. People are divided between I want my own business. I don't want to work for nobody, or I don't want to work at all. I want the government to damn near raise me. So there's nobody to fill those jobs. There's nobody to drive trucks. There's nobody to work in the factories, all that stuff. And the second thing is the government literally paid farmers and people who own like oil companies to dispose of their products. Like there isn't a surplus of things to buy. So slowly but surely supplies are going to run out, and at the end of it all, after the dust has settled, there will be robotics working in those factory jobs and all those labor jobs that people with low education or not enough money depended on. And so I want y'all to kind of everybody to speak on that and how do y'all feel about that, and where do you think that leads to?
I mean, honestly, the robotics part that you're speaking on has already started. I mean, if you want to take a look at Japan, they already have implemented pretty much I guess low level AI into restaurant businesses, shopping malls, basically small steps that you can implement them into before going full scale with a more intelligent piece of hardware.
That's interesting. I would say where we're going is probably gonna, like you said, go into that society where it's just robots doing a lot of things, especially for like jobs. I think it's just gonna beg the question to just overall humanity. It's gonna make humanity question what is the worth of a person. You know, like is your entire worth just working at McDonald's? If a robot can just replace you, you see, you know what I'm saying? So it's just gonna make us ponder those type of thoughts and reevaluate what a real human's worth is. If we start seeing robots taking over everything, the stores, the shopping malls, everything, every store we go into, you know what I'm saying? If we start really losing jobs, like Blue just said, it's already happening. So it's only a matter of time before we start asking those important questions. And I guess we'll just have to come to the realization that we're worth more than just a 9 to 5 job. Like we have infinite amounts of potential in here versus just a robot that's programmed to do a set thing. But it's gonna take time. That's what I think we're gonna be like forced to understand. That's what I think.
But also, on the other hand, I feel like a lot of the ushering in of the weak AI is basically supporting complacency or laziness because people could also be getting better at cultivating those skills or finding uh ways to optimize on them, but today's day and age is find a way to do it fast without a lot of effort. So technology is going to be the front runner in that filter.
Um, just to piggyback off of what both of you said, you made some great points. One, as to the fact that we are already in that era of, technology kind of replacing the human body in so many different senses. And I think that us as a world, having experienced this recent quote unquote pandemic that we've experienced, it forced us to be put, shut down and put, on the inside of, and you kind of like expressed earlier the image of a box. And that's what I would consider, the space that we live in for the most part, a box. And you kind of, addressed it as, like an upload, you know what I mean? Or into like a system. And, we could I like to term that the matrix, Um, you also talked about, Clarkson, you mentioned us asking questions, which is something we're programmed not to do. You know what I mean? From the time that we're little, growing up and throughout our lifetimes in so many different facets of life. We're talking about education. We're talking about the judicial system. We're talking about, world, world matters. We're talking about, the healthcare. There's so many different facets when it comes to that. And now we're talking about AI and artificial intelligence and the growth of technology, which I overall view as a mimic to what the mixture of the human body and the soul, the entity, is already. We're literally technology. We are, the original. energetic, entity, energetic being. So I do believe, because we are so energetically moved, we're in such a high timeline of energetic movement, and this includes everything. This includes that technological growth. We are, as a collective, going through somewhat of a very heightened opening of our awareness and understanding, or understanding, as many would like to say. So it's almost like both of those things are happening simultaneously. The growth of technology is absolutely taking over. We've been pushed into a place where we've had to be, forced to be inside. We've had to, second guess a lot of those, companies and things of that nature that we normally would function at, and get into the lines of communicating over the internet, or working over the internet, starting businesses and whatnot, or even down to like ordering our groceries and things of that nature, where we're not really, doing things on a physical sense of the word, and we are moving into a very digital world. I do believe that's been happening systematically for many centuries. um but we're also energetically affecting each other, and as is the cosmos. So we're literally moving into a very rapid paced, what many would like to address it as an awakening. So I personally have, I have my personal view of where we're headed, and I think we can share a little bit more, and I'll get more into that at some point. But it is all happening very simultaneously, and it's very interesting to see how the two intertwine and how they divide as well, because I believe that's what's overall happening. I always say on my platform that the oldest aged winner of war is divide and conquer, infiltration. And I believe that that's been happening to us as a people, all over the planet for centuries and centuries, in any sense of the word war. And so we're kind of in what I would like to call a spiritual warfare, where we're somewhere between the technological factor of things and the spiritual factor of things, which are not in essence that separated. But because by infiltration, it creates a massive divide, and overall conquer. So, I'm going to leave it at that for now, because I'd love to hear more of the points that you guys are coming with, and then I'll get a little more into it later on.
Nah, that's pure facts. And one of the things I want to mention is we are for sure biotechnology. If you think about how the fact that our whole circulatory system is electric, and our water, we have a water system that's basically like our blood. Basically, it's pumping. It's like it's hydro energy. Like, let's just be real about it. Like, we literally are electric beings. We are biotechnology. We are robots with organic flesh. Like, let's just be we're real about it. We are the
Hydro
grand design. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Blue?
hydroelectric androids.
Yes.
Damn,
Perfect.
Android.
Hydroelectric androids. That is what we are. And we are basically replicating, quote unquote, God's creation, the universe's creation. That is what we're doing, and we're trying to take out the natural death, because everything has an end and a beginning. Everything natural dies and rebirths. It's a cycle. Generation X says she's dope. Salute sister. That's what's up. Giving them flowers. But yeah, I just wanted to say that is big facts. We are biotechnology, and Japan is always, like, it seems like even in their anime they talk about how they are the testing ground of new technology. They are always the ones that are first when it comes to technological breakthroughs and testing and things of that nature, and they're more loose with the human aspect. It's like, I like if you think about it, even the most recent anime, it's all about blending with technology. They're kind of grooming their society to get used to androids. So, what else? Clock, you said human worth. We are definitely finding out how, like, what is our worth in the society. But remember this though, there is a such thing as what the elites like to call useless eaters. And what that is basically people who don't want to work, don't want to contribute to society, blah, 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 blah. So, and this is going to lead us into our next topic. What do you do to a people that you have not yet, you've tried to kill them off, from poison food, from drugs, from inciting violence to reprogramming them to be highly sexual and highly violent, but they're just still here. So what do? You put them in timeout. What is the metaverse? A virtual timeout. You're gonna die. Like, since we can't get rid of you the way that we're trying to, now we're gonna hook you up to something so you're not gonna be a problem. Because imagine, we don't need you for work. And if you're not working, then you're going to be in the way in society. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tie you up basically to a virtual world where you can be distracted and out of the way. And you can live your virtual life in a virtual in a virtual paradise while we actually benefit from the actual real world. I feel like that is the setup and the main goal of the metaverse. And we will, after I let everybody expound on what I just said, we will actually get into kind of a short description of what the metaverse is.
Yeah, I
And
definitely agree with that. I think when it comes to the overall social media and the metaverse, and like you said, the lower class that the system doesn't need anymore. Like you said, it's just they want to get them out of the way. And I guess the easiest way for them to do that, and for those people to not really rebel or fight back or try to make any problems for them, is to keep them in a docile type of a mindset. Like you stay over there, don't bother anybody. Just what I'm saying. So the easiest way to do that, like if I was a dictator, you got to keep them satisfied and keep them happy and keep them occupied, right? And so with social media has done that to a point, but I think over time people are just getting tired of it, especially the way we interact with social media with a phone. You can still put the phone down. So the next level is not being able to put the phone down. Constantly stimulated, 24/7, all the time. You know what I'm saying? With the VR headset on, you can just look, and it might go beyond that in the next few years. But for right now, the next world we're leading into is the metaverse is basically trying to get us to not have to pick up the phone to enter the internet world. That's basically, what I'm saying, because you can put the phone down. They're trying to make it to where we're always in it. Like right now, we be walking around in the metaverse, and that's way more addicting than a phone. You'd want to be in there forever. For the basic minded person, you'd be like, oh, it's cool. I could sit in here. I could be at the beach at the snap of my finger. I could watch a virtual movie. Who would want to leave that world? And that's the gimmick. That's the enticing flavor of, wow, my life ain't even that special as it is. I don't got a lot of money. I'm a poor person on the street, but if I can get access to this like for free, how they got the free phone, they're gonna start giving this stuff out for free eventually. You're gonna be able to enter the metaverse for free and just stay there. So that's how I think their goal is, to get the people who are in that demographic to just
I
leave
gotta
everybody
definitely
alone.
say this. Think of like internet cafes, but it's apartments where people will be living in
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a fact. And for those of you that are listening, and you're like, nah, there's not gonna ever be a world like this. Watch a TV show on Netflix called Altered Carbon. Watch that TV show. That's literally a TV show about them taking the human consciousness into a chip, like about the size of this, and putting it into other bodies. That was what Studio was talking about earlier in the stream. That's like the next level of them, having actual human consciousness in a chip, being able to put it into new bodies to where you never actually die and go to that next transcend to that next level. So it's not bullcrap. It's already, what I'm saying, it's already in people's minds. They already made a whole TV show about it. So the concept is there. It's just a matter of time. We're doing talks like these to where it doesn't get to that, that stage, or we evolve as a race into a different, more evolved. Like for me personally, I love technology. You know what I'm saying? So I don't just bash on any type of concept when it comes to the quote unquote new world order. Obviously, I don't agree with 99% of what the elites want the world to be. But as far as technology, I don't think of it as bad or good. It's just how we use it. So I think of us as a world when it comes to like a brand new utopia and living with technology. I think of us living in a world like Star Wars. That would be a cool world. We could live with technology instead of always being inside of technology like the Matrix. I'm not trying to live like that. So that's just my 2 cents on. I know I jumped around a little bit, but that's my 2 cents on what Studi just said.
I guess I'll go ahead and chime in. I'd like you, Clarkson, to repeat the name of that show if possible.
Yeah, it's a Netflix show. It actually has 2 seasons. It's called Altered Carbon. I watched the first season. It blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, this is. I didn't think they actually made a show like this. Yes, it's
Cool,
crazy.
cool. Thank you for that recommendation. I'm definitely going to check it out. While you were speaking, it made me think of that reality show called The Circle. I don't know if you guys have seen that, and it's on Netflix. Yeah, and I'm actually, I'm not a big TV watcher, so I'm more like a bookworm, and I'm a research junkie. So I don't really spend a lot of time watching TV. But my cousin was like, "You got to watch this show. You got to watch this show." And at first I'm just like, oh gosh, like I don't want to watch this reality TV show. And then I started watching it with her, and it reels you in because it's just so interesting how the functionality of social media works. And they're in apartments where they don't have access to anything outside of the circle, and they're speaking to the TVs in their home, in the apartments, and they don't ever see each other. So they're just building friendships, and it's on the basis of who becomes an influencer, who builds those rapport enough to get rated high, and then is able to boot or block someone else. And then some of them are coming in as themselves, and some of them are coming as like a catfish. And so it's so interesting. It's a social experiment, in essence. And it's so interesting to see how that functions and how that becomes such a reality that we're in, which is so interesting how you touched upon that, Clarkson, as being, literally in the Matrix, just being in our home. I personally feel that boxes are something that was created by that metaverse, like that idea of the metaverse. And to take it a step further, like what you were talking about before with, basically creating a docile creature. And I personally believe we originally were a docile creature, but we're also a meddling type of creature, right? If that makes sense. And I'll get a little more deeper into that in a moment. But it's the idea of not having us asking questions, right? And because just to take it a step further, even deeper than us being out of the way, it's the idea that the whole premise of what the metaverse actually is based on what we are. So we're in essence experimental creatures, right? So it's more than just us being not ruffling feathers, right? Not asking a lot of questions, or being controlled, because in essence I believe that all of these things that you're mentioning are very how do they call it, subliminal, right? But we are literally the root of everything that's being built. So imagine all of the technology that is in existence being, like you said before, a complete replica of what our natural essence are. So to take it a step further, you mentioned, us being kept busy and moved out of the way. And I view it as us being placed in a box of fear. Because if we are always feeling as if we lack something, then we're always going to feel dependent. Like you said, I need this. I need what you have for me. I need that. And if I need that, then I'm always going to be dependent upon it. If we know the essence at which our power is, because we are actually very energetic beings, we are actually a much more advanced technology in our own than the technology, the AI that has come to play in the current day. But because we don't know that, because we've been disconnected from that knowledge, then we're very much always in a state of fear, and there's always something out there being put on the media to create a frantic energy within us, and so we're always feeling that we need to be dependent on something else as opposed to ourselves, right? There's so many. It's such a layered topic. So every time you guys say something, there's so much more that comes out of it, because there's two ways this can go. I personally know where I sit on the fence, but we're either being uploaded because in essence we're out of the way, but we're also being used, because our consciousness is what in essence runs the whole idea of the metaverse, per se. um what we are in our natural essence is the premise to which everything functions in this society's standards that we live in. But when we have a full understanding of how we function as an energetic being, aside from just the body, right, just the avatar, I like to call it, right, then we understand what we can do on our own, and how we can function without those we don't need the middleman. Basically, that's kind of what it is. It's like the middleman. You talked about Star Wars, and I personally love Star Wars. I was a Star Wars watching kid, and I feel very closely to that, and I feel we've actually lived like that before. You talked about anime, which I want to get into too, because all things come from the same source, and so there is truth in everything. And I like to tell people all the time that lies are subtle distortions of the truth. They're never just a flat out, bam, lie. It's always very, very pretty. It looks the same as what the truth is, right? And so we are very much controlled by choice. Our souls cannot be invaded without consent, but because we're attacked with subliminal messages and information through everything we tap into and upload and whatnot every day, we're we're unknowingly consenting to that level of experimentation, or that level of being used to function this whole plane, as you would call it. There's literally so much that goes into that. So when we talk about things like anime, or even like Star Wars, I personally think that we're headed back to a time that looks more like like Avatar, if you've seen that movie, where we are the power source, and the land, the nature is the power source. And this is not a new. This is actually a reconditioning of what we once were. But we've been disconnected from that period of time. So we're very dependent upon, technology, or even, government, and all these outside sources, things outside of ourselves. There's anime for me is literally documentation. It's documentary. Those are real true stories that happen. Those are our stories, our lives that we lived. And the truth is literally hidden in plain sight, all everywhere. And those are forms of, the things that we call cartoon or children's, fantasy and things of that nature, but they come from very real places. And when we pay attention, we can see how that all literally tells a story. It could just go on and on. So that's kind of like the things that really stood out from what you talked about.
I'm sorry. What's your social media? You have social media?
I do. Renee and Tune is everything, everywhere.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
at Renee and Tune on Instagram. If you're on, Facebook, it's Renee and Tune. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, everywhere you go, it's
Gotcha.
Renee and Tune. But if you go to my website, it's reneeandtune.com. You can find links to everything there.
Okay,
And
that was basic.
before Blue expounds on what everybody been saying, I want to note that like even in Naruto, if you remember when Naruto first came out, chakra was not seen. That when they talked about chakra, they talked about it as an invisible force, and only the super powerful characters you were able to see their chakra. And that and when you look at um like the last Airbender, the techniques that each nation does is an actual form of martial art. So they're saying that they're embodying the fire element, and you can literally there are monks that can light their hands up enough for you to burn something. And when you move like water, you're embodying that element in earth and air and all that stuff. Like those are just like visualizations of actual science and things of that nature. So um I'm gonna shut up now, and Blue, you got the floor.
I'm so glad y'all brought up anime before I could. So, um, yes, just like Renee said, anime is uh it's a reminder of where we've been. Like um like Marvel's series What If is basically like little excerpts from slots in time where basically we kind of sort of reminded ourselves of cues to get our subconsciouses prepared for this point in time because again, like we've already been stating, we've been in this era before. If you think about it, the 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 astrological collective is not a wheel for no reason. Like we literally perform like our entire existence is a sequence of cycles, a sequence of ciphers. So literally all we doing is coming back around to the point in time where we make the transition from uh more so belief to knowledge, from skepticism to conviction.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I want to say this too. Like the reason why I brought up Metaverse is because we have to kind of understand who's running this. The people at Facebook are the ones that are in quote unquote control of the metaverse, right? And they have documented our feelings, thoughts, fears, relationships, everything. They've documented it for years, right? So
Hold
they
on, so
already have.
metaverse you talking about? Are you talking about metaverse TM or the metaverse uh in general?
I'm talking about the metaverse. I guess TM, the one
Got,
that Mark Zuckerberg is
got you.
up trying to create. So they've had our information for years. They got enough pictures to see how we're going to grow into blah blah blah. So now what they need is like an avatar of your person. Now they need just a digital model of you because they already know your personality. They already know your fears, your wants, your friends, family, exes, all just everything because we've given it to them. Because to be honest, Facebook is basically a digital dossier that we've given up. We freely
Yeah,
given
yep.
up our information. So imagine a company having that, and now they have a link to your brain and a link to you. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about some neuroscience because the reason why we are addicted to games, to TV, to candy, to lovers and everything is because when we interact with positive stimuli, not only do we create synapses to memorize that feeling and wanting to repeat that action, but we also produce chemicals which in our brains to produce the feeling of happiness. So that's like serotonin and dopamine. And imagine a serotonin dopamine machine that you can't turn off. You're going to be addicted to that. Just like Clarkson was saying, yeah, that's a virtual paradise. You would have absolutely no reason to not do that. And imagine having a robot assistant that makes sure that you feed yourself and changes your, excuse my language, but changes your piss and shit bag for you. Like, and it might sound like silly and like might be extreme, but these are the things that we got to think about because it's not far fetched. We got people that's addicted to arcade games. Like if somebody is plugged in or playing Call of Duty, interrupt them and see what happens to you, or watch them lose a match and see what happens. Like it gets serious. So imagine you, imagine you saying, you know what, you've been in the metaverse for 6 hours. Take this off. It's going down, bro. It's going down. So like we gotta like really think about that. Like, and I'll be quiet so y'all can kind of expound on those elements that I brought up.
Man, it goes deep. It goes really deep. Blue, you said a couple powerful. Then you dropped some really dope gems. In what you said, you first said that we left ourselves in not verbatim, but you said we left ourselves reminders, which was like mind blowing. Wow, because we don't even know that, we don't understand. We've been here before, right? It's this like cycle. That was one. And then man, there's so many different things that you all are touching upon. But we're we're going through a remembering. All of these things are literally reminders of who we are and who we've been. And it's such an interesting thing. When you first invited me and talked about the topics, I kind of, was thinking, well, I'm going to be listening a lot because I don't really know too much about all of these things. But the flow and the layout of what's being unfolded here is very much my lane. I was placed here for a very specific purpose, and this is exactly touching upon, what I'm here to really like relay. I think that we're in a place now where we're understanding the power of. I talked about our neurological system and how that functions, and so our bodies are made, and our brains are made to do a realm of functions that are almost like limitless, but we're also very attached to certain things that we need in order to for those things to function, or so we've been told. So then we get into things as, what are we eating? What are we, using medically? Are we using medications? What kind of like toothpaste are we using? Things of that nature. Because then we start talking about like the pineal gland and, things that have been incorporated into what we might need, quote unquote, that close up those pieces of our functioning, those parts of ourselves, where fluoride and just like an ongoing list of things could be mentioned when it comes to that area of information. But then, those things disconnect us from, our actual knowing. So then when we get into that place where people start asking questions like Clarkson talked about earlier, and we start saying, well, hey, do I really need this? And do I really need that? And is this really necessary? And does this really make sense? Then we start finding out things. And like Blue mentioned, we've left ourselves a ton of reminders. Even though the truth has been subtly distorted, it is in plain sight. It is hidden in plain sight everywhere. And there is a very subliminal nature to the decisions that we make. So we make a lot of decisions based on a subliminal knowledge. What do we think that we're not capable of, and what we think that we need? And so we're coming from a place of fear base, right? I mean, we're not a creature created in fear, because we are so continuous, right? So we literally, like you said, everything dies and rebirths. We are ever, we're an ever evolving creature. I like, it brings me back to the quote that says the only thing that's constant is change, and it's unknown to me as to where that comes from, but I've heard it on many occasions. We are now stepping into a place where we're at a crossroads as a planet. Are we going to remember where we came from and who we are, or are we going to dive further into dependency on an artificial intelligence that we are set to believe will control the functions, will be the source of the functioning that we need in order to continue and to grow on as a people? And then that's where all the questions are left. That's where all the questions come in. What are we capable of, and how can we access those capabilities? In what ways have we been disconnected from those capabilities? And that's where I come in. And I love how you talked about, the controllers of the metaverse. But Blue started to touch upon, what the metaverse in a whole, where that control is coming from. That's kind of where I come from, where I come in, because I personally can say that, I am in a place in my evolution where I have tapped into myself on a soul level, on a fairly deep level, and I actually have a remembrance of a lot of past things, right? So we talk, when you dive into certain communities out there, certain people are talking about certain things, and maybe some people have not even heard about yet. I can say that for me, I remember a number of my previous lives, right? Existences that I lived before this particular one. And when you get into that state of energy, then and that's one of the key things that Blue mentioned earlier, us going from a state of believing and moving into a state of knowing. And that was like so deep, such a deep topic, because that is where we're at. It is easy to say we believe in something, but what do we really believe in? And are we in a state of knowing? Do we know that? And knowing really comes from an internal place. So it doesn't matter. I mentioned earlier, I'm a bookworm and a research junkie. It doesn't matter what we're reading. And don't get me wrong, I'm a very big fan of knowledge, because we are the creators of wisdom, right? Wisdom comes initially from what we are in a whole. Everything on the planet comes from a story that we once lived, in its derivation. But all knowledge, all true knowledge really comes from an internal place, in a place of inner knowing, and then we're not even touching upon where the source of this control and the state of the metaverse that we're in even comes from. And that's where my work comes into play, because that's pretty much what I'm here to do. It goes back to all issues that start on the planet, where we could talk about all of the different things that could be done, right, to reverse or repair so many different systematic issues that we have on this planet, whether it's healthcare, whether it's whatever, child infant loss, whether it's the judicial system and the rate of inmates, whether it's the breakdown of the family, whether it's education, the education system. It just goes on and on and on, but it all boils down back to the family, the home. And in essence, that is what happened with us as a soul family. And it all boils down to the home, where we come from, how we were created, and where things kind of went left in the first place, because we are a whole. We are an essence of wholeness, which is, and we as a people, which is why we become so dependent, in my opinion, is that we just have disconnected ourselves from all things that seem negative. And so we have to attach ourselves to something that replaces that. And we are everything. We are all of it. So we're the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's where this process that we're in, like Clarkson talked about, of kind of having to ask questions, it opens up this bag, right? It opens up a bag of us unpacking our own shit. So, excuse my French.
Pandora's box.
Because what happened and what are we really embodying? What all are we to have gotten us to this point in the first place? I'll just leave it there, allow you to continue on.
Dang, that was amazing. I want to come at it from another angle that I was just thinking about a few seconds ago. I want to come at it from the financial angle, right? And why, like, for example, for the people who don't really believe that, Facebook and the transformation into the metaverse isn't what we're saying, like they're not really trying to control your mindset and whatnot. It's just all happy flowers, and they're just trying to connect people to other people. They're not the bad guys and whatnot. We can all agree that it's about money. At the end of the day, every business wants to make money, and they want to make more money, right? So you look at it from that perspective, this is literally just a start, because what the metaverse does is it opens up access to even more personal information. Like Studi was saying, when we make our avatars and whatnot, they're going to be able to pinpoint the type of things we like and the type of things we don't like to a whole nother level. And if you guys don't know, Microsoft is already making deals under the table trying to collaborate with the metaverse. You know what I'm saying? So Xbox, Microsoft, they're all going to be encompassing the power of the metaverse. So they're going to be able to target someone like, okay, this person in the metaverse has this type of avatar. And, they might have some goth earrings on. So let's promote Devil May Cry to this person because of the data they got from the metaverse. You see what I'm saying? And so this is going to help. When I mean help, I just mean in general when it comes to advertising to a deeper level. This is going to help all businesses. So Facebook is just the first social media platform to do this. Once other businesses catch on, that wow, we can promote our products to a more broader audience with the power of the metaverse. Everyone's going to go and copy. Twitter is going to try to make a form of the metaverse. Every single social media network is going to morph into this network to be able to target an audience and push a product to a specific person based on the data they have in the metaverse. So that's definitely what we gotta look at. And it's not just the mind control thing; it's also a huge cash grab. And Facebook is literally just the start.
Well, you got anything to add to that before I go in on that?
You got it, brother.
You said very important things for sure. I want to kind of point out the fact that this actually goes into our next topic. That was a nice segue into the cryptocurrency problem. But I want to say this. Right now, they are literally building the metaverse, and they're trying to train people in coding right now. Facebook literally has a program right now that is trying to teach people how to code so they can build this metaverse. And like you're saying, companies are going to imagine, instead of clicking on an app, you Google search Twitter, and now you're walking into a virtual Twitter zone. Imagine, like, yeah, just imagine that you will not be walking into, like, you won't be going on to Amazon.com. You be walking into a virtual Amazon store. It'll be like that, and mind you, it'll all be based on. It's gonna Metaverse is not the last step. Remember, the last step is always going to be to upload your consciousness. That is the last step. It's going to go from us physically moving our bodies to walk with the VR to us being plugged into a machine and our brain waves is moving the avatar. So don't think that the metaverse is the last step. It's still another level to what they're doing, but think about it. They're already. I want to go. This is going to lead up to the cryptocurrency, but like I was saying to the panelists earlier, they already trained us up with buying DLCs, which is downloadable content on video games. They already trained us to understand the concept of collecting coins from, let's just use, no, not Sonic, because you can't really, whatever video game you can like break. Oh, Zelda. They taught us from there that if you collect enough rubies, you can buy a new weapon. That is training us to value virtual currency before they even put it out. We've already got that concept down. Even if somebody doesn't understand cryptocurrency, they can understand using physical money or digital money to buy a digital product. And you're not understanding that you don't own that game skin. You don't own that virtual gun. If somebody wiped your CD or hacked your account and deleted everything, or whatever, it's done. It no longer exists. Or if you no longer have that game system, what did you spend that money on? You literally just wasted your money. And like they're getting people into doing NFTs, which is basically just like virtual, and they're training people to value the digital data more than something physical. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And with cryptocurrency, it'll legitimize Mario's coins. You feel me? It'll legitimize Sonic's rings. For real, man. That's what they're trying to do. And some people don't believe that cryptocurrency. Some people believe that cryptocurrency will lead to the fall of the fiat system. That may be true, but everything, especially with technology, is a double-edged sword. I even say this: even tarot, even spiritual things like tarot, is a double-edged sword. If you don't have the balance of being able to, like, let things go with the flow, you'll start worshiping the tarot cards. Even though the tarot is just a medium for you to get information from the higher realm, you will start looking to the cards as your god. So you don't want to be worshiping virtual gods. You just don't want to. Long story short, you don't want to end up worshiping that, because like I was saying, it's going to be a physical hookup, a spiritual hookup, and a mental hookup, because it'll have your brain. You're going to want that dopamine. You're going to physically have something over your eyes, and spiritually, you're going to be immersed in an even deeper world, a lower vibration. Because the digital world is a lower vibration. I'm sorry, it is. It's pixels. We are pixelated right now. It's just that it's so refined that you can't tell, but that's basically what we are. So if you're trapped in that, that's a lower vibration than the physical. So I'm gonna shut up now, and I'll let y'all expound on what I said. But yeah.
I like what Renee was saying earlier about, like, obviously what you were saying too, but like what Renee was saying earlier about the like the creativity of us as a whole and how we're going to implement and impact the metaverse. Like, for example, let's just say, for example, we were in the metaverse right now. Like, we would come up with things and literally change or morph the way it is just because of our creativity alone. Like, I don't like it. But in general, like, yeah, they created it, but ultimately we have the power when it comes to, like, because we're the majority of people, obviously. So I just really want her to touch on that a little bit more, just because I love how she said that and she broke that down. Like, we still have the power even now. Like, they have all these huge corporations and they want to control us, but at the end of the day, we have the ultimate power when it comes to what we do and how we change things with, with our minds and our power. So like I said.
Yeah, that's that's the kicker here, really. And that's where we're all at as a collective people. It's the place where we decide what our dependency is and what is in our hands. We want to just to take it a step further. We talk, you've talked about being hooked up into a system, basically, and being, in essence, in control of an avatar. But I'd like to take it a step further and say that, our energy is a power source, literally. So once we've been hooked up, it's so far as to say that we're being almost reeled in order to have access, right? Remember, because there's that consent there, that subliminal consent. And that's where those games and all those things come into play, because it's subliminally putting something into your mind. If we can talk about the COVID situation like that, where COVID was really coming for a long time. If people were paying attention, COVID was really coming for a long time before it came. And it was very subliminally placed in all of the medias that we utilize. And so when it came psychologically, we were ready for it. And even though people were frantic, that's where that need to, I need to wear a mask, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. And I'm not denoting that it's, real or not. I know that that's a conversation out there, and I'm not trying to touch upon that. But it's just the idea of control, right? Because what we could deal with COVID, right? Say this is an illness, but what are my means of healing this illness? You know what I mean? We've got Mother Nature, and Mother Nature is a source of a ton of different ways to heal, right? They're like literally an herb for everything under the sun. Naturally, we also have our own natural abilities to heal. Those of you who are healers out there know that you have an internal energy source within you that has the capability of healing. But then we have, medications and machines and whatnot, and those things that say, well, these are the things that you need in order to heal this illness. And that's only one thing. We've got all these different things that say we need something in order for us to survive as a people, because this is now in, like you said, it's a lower, the intranet in essence is a low vibrational source. So it's a survival mode, right? Because we are in constant survival mode. And that's really where that low, when we start talking about like the anime brought up that those chakras, that's where that low vibrational energy comes from. The root chakra is that base chakra sitting at the bottom of your spine, and that's where that safety factor comes from. That's where that need for stability comes from. And when that is out of balance, which a lot of us don't even know what our chakras are, right? We don't know about that energy source that coils around the spine, which is that represented by that, that serpent around the staff that you'll see in a lot of medical fields, signs or whatnot. It's really a representation of the chakras. And so we already have a natural energy system that coils around our spine, but it's oftentimes out of whack because we don't know what it is. Which is a whole nother topic, but Clarkson talked about, getting really expounding upon, about, us being able to tap into our natural, energy, because we're hooking up to a system, but why, right? Why just give us a means to sit down and be, hooked up to the system and let it function? We are a natural power source. So how does that metaverse even function in the first place? It is literally not just a replica of, but it needs a power source. It needs a continuance, right? And so it's already this is not the first time this is happening. We're already living in a metaverse, right? We're already living in a firmly formed matrix, right? But it's now being, there are a ton of holes poked into it, right? So in order for it to continue in existence, it has to rebuild. And how does it do that? It extracts, almost like we would extract from a plant or whatever. It extracts its source of functioning from us. We are a power source, like when we talk about solar power, and things of that nature. And a lot of people don't know, don't believe in like global warming and things of that nature. We're talking about solar power. We're talking about a natural source of power. We are like solar power. We're a natural source of power. So when we're being hooked into these systems, we're also being extracted from. So then we become a body in essence, you know what I mean? And our soul, which is that energy source that's inside of us, it is now being used. And I mentioned earlier, about us being experimented upon. It is now being used. So this is a power source. This metaverse needs a power source. It cannot continue without having a power source. And so that is, we're subliminally consenting to becoming its power source. into being the things that, the energy that it powers from. And in essence, it's taking our power. So if we can power this source, right, then what's to say we can't power anything on our own? And that's where those questions come into play. What are we really, what is that? And that goes, and that goes even deeper to talk, to say that we have the ability to fully disconnect. You know what I mean? To fully disconnect. So many people will have a different idea of where we're actually headed when it comes to finances. Cryptocurrency seems to be taking over, right? Because the idea of the dollar is changing. Money, in essence, as a whole, is energy. So all of it is just being moved around, moved around, moved around. So cryptocurrency is just another source of energy, just as money is the dollar, right? It's just the idea of it is changing. I personally believe that, if we not if, we'll go back to that comment that Blue said earlier. And we have a knowing, those of us who are a little tapped in, that at some point we will function as our own barter system, because we don't necessarily need the dollar or the cryptocurrency. So we, in essence, can function on our own, right? Because we are a power source. Then Mother Nature is a power source. We all are pieces of a major puzzle, right? A big ass picture, right? A big ass universe, cosmos, solar system, or whatever however want to call it. And so we all come with something, right? So in essence, I could say, well, I'm over here and I've got this garden or this farm, and I have these things here that you might not have, Clarkson. And so, well, what do you have over there? And Clarkson's like, well, I've developed these, whatever, crystallized, copper tone forms of, energy sources. And we can use these for this, that, and the third. And we can now source each other. We can swap that and share that. And that's money, in essence. It's a barter system. So, there's like a million things that can, be said for all of those things that we've just talked about.
Damn, that's a fact. I'm so glad she touched on that, because that was literally going through my head the whole time. Like, it goes back to the question, what do we value? Because you look at history right now, like, I call them virtual Mona Lisas. We got NFTs that are worth $50,000 or more. So it's like, what is value and what's not valuable? Like right now, if everybody on this call says this little sword is worth $1 million, then I mean, at the moment, it's worth $1 million. If someone's willing to pay for it, it's worth $1 million. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we have so much power. We can literally say this digital piece of artwork is worth $1 million, and now it is. And so, like she said, with currency, people say money is the root of all evil. I mean, if you think that, okay, but it's just energy. So people who use the energy bad is them using the energy bad. People who use the energy good is people who use the energy good. And now that the currency is morphing, you can't say that anymore because it's not going to be in the dollar form. We're switching it over to the Bitcoin. So it's like, is it always going to be money is the root of all evil? So I'm glad she touched on that. It's just it's breaking so many mindsets and generational curses of the concept of money. It's really, the power is really in us. Same with the crystals. Like most people don't know, we give these crystals the power and the juice, and then we reflect back on that, and we keep them on us to keep that frequency. But we charge these. Everything around us is comes from us because, like she said, we're the power source. So that's amazing. And I'm glad she touched on that. I just had to say those
Yeah,
two things.
I always say like we are neutronic beings, and when I say that is when we wake up in the morning, we are clean slated. We have not been stimulated by positive or negative energy. So what we choose to tap into is the type of um, existence, you know, we create for ourselves. And so if you surround yourself with spiritual beings, you're only going to vibrate higher because that's the only energy that's being recycled. Because you have to remember, and I love saying this, energy is never created nor destroyed. It is just recycled. That energy is infinite. And so, like, I like the fact that y'all are reminding people that we actually put the value on everything. We put the value in the thing. Also, I wanted to note before Blue speak his mind on what we've been talking about, Earth has a natural healing and cooling phase and healing and cooling system. So it's not about global warming. That is a myth. The Earth has natural cycles just like everything has a natural cycle. And really the Earth is feminine energy. It doesn't don't women have menstrual cycles where they replace, you know what I'm saying? They recycle the egg and anything, all the impurities that's left in the bodies, the toxin. That is what Earth is doing. And and I put it this way too: when you're sick, your body heats up to kill the germs, and that is what the Earth is doing. The Earth is sick, and it is doing its thing to heal itself. It is recycling. So whether you want to look at it as Earth is having its menstrual cycle, or you want to look at it as Earth is sick and it's getting rid of the fever, either way, the Earth has a natural healing and cooling phase and system. And Blue, you can go ahead and speak your mind, and then we got one more set of we have one more topic, and then we're done.
Uh, so the first thing that I want to hit on is the term metaverse. So, um, we've already been ushered into a metaverse since the birth of World Wide Web on a like in a 3D sense, but from a macrocosmic sense, we're already in a metaverse. This experience that we're having is holographic. None of this is actually here. We're not touching, tasting, seeing, feeling none of this. So that's two spectrums that we're already in a digital plane, so to say. So now when we were speaking on metaverse earlier, I know we were referring to Zuckerberg's creation, the actual metaverse platform. But metaverse in a general sense is just going to refer to the digital plane, and basically what the digital plane is doing is replicating the spiritual plane, but it's like analog and digital for those who are musically inclined. One of them is using the the actual the relics or the the tape and the CD to get your desired result, and the other is using your MP3 player and your Blu-ray. Like it's basically the same system, but being expressed from two different aspects, so to say. Another thing that I want to NFTs. Now, in a general sense, yes, it is just digital art. But what makes NFTs so special is the fact that it is the same way that the same thing that makes you special. There's only one of you. There's no like that, like there can be a copy, but it's not the exact same ones, if that makes sense. Like what NFTs do is basically make that Mona Lisa or that Michelangelo. They give that I guess real estate, so to say, to hold in on the digital plane, so that we can have a reference point to keep track in the decentralized space, because that's what the metaverse is, or that's what cryptocurrency is decentralized currency, rather than what we're experiencing now with a centralized banking system. Instead of from peer to institution to peer, it's just peer to peer.
Oh snap! So you're basically saying the reason why NFTs are so special is every single piece of artwork basically has its own social security number.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
And it has a specific social security number from a specific artist. and that specific artist he can either, just like in a traditional sense, they can either sign their art in a specific way. They only make specific types of art. There's only a limited number, etc., etc. Like basically all the metaverse in a general sense is trying to do is create uh real estate for us to do commerce on in the digital plane, as well as being decentralized. That way, if whether you want to be tied to uh, a centralized bank or be private, you can do either or, but the choice is yours. It's all in what you understand. It's all in what your plans is. Like it is we're moving away from the notion that you got to have somebody's permission to do something. It's what are you here for, and what do you need to do it? Like there's no more big brother gonna be here to watch over us here soon.
That's a fact. Because I don't know if y'all know anybody, but I don't know anyone on the planet that you personally know that can make their own physical dollar. I don't know nobody like that, but I do know someone personally who has made their own cryptocurrency coin. So that's a fact. You just said that, like, we are getting more control when it comes to the financial sides. Like, I know someone who has their own coin that they put on the market and they're trying to grow it. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's a whole new thing.
And everything is a double-edged sword. Like I'm definitely not saying that um, there aren't positives to a digital world, like because that would be asinine to just throw away the whole concept. It's just that I wanted to highlight the dangers of solely depending on a digital existence, and that's
Right.
kind of going to segue into my next. You know, we got to talk about, and this is the last thing. We're going to talk about the social credit system and contact tracing. So basically, what contact tracing is contact tracing is a group of people who call folks who've had the CV and kind of explain or ask them like how's your system going, who's in your house, da 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 da. Right? That's scary because not only is it creating a caste system in a way of seeing who has been V'd, I'm not going to say the word, but y'all should know what I'm talking about. Who has been V'd and who hasn't, who you're around, yada, 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 who you could have given that, blah, blah, blah. And so imagine that database with the social credit system. That means that they all know who has been, I'm just going to say chipped, and who hasn't. And if you're not chipped, you can't get this metaverse package. Let's put it that way. Let's look at in a scenario of a society where just like how you can get food stamps and housing if you qualify for certain things. Imagine they say if you are chipped, you can get this housing, a free metaverse kit, in food stamps, in a robotic um support. Yeah, you get a support robot.
Oh
Do you see where I'm
snap!
going with this?
Oh
And if you're
snap!
not, and if you say anything against the government or against whatever the general population is, curated to believe, then you don't get those benefits.
That goes back to dependence. That's all well and fine if they want to do that. But if I already know how to create all this infrastructure for myself and my loved ones, I don't give a damn. All the sheep can go. I'm gonna just be over here doing my own thing.
Hell, you're right. I do feel bad for the other people though. Like, goddamn, that's so
I not.
evil.
Well,
And
let's
that'll be
take
the
it.
second rapture. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take it a step further to say that not only is it, like you said, everything is a double-edged sword. So while in essence you'll have access to this quote unquote package of things that you might feel you need, which is again where that subliminal consent comes into play, in my opinion. Now, what are you losing in that? What are you sacrificing in that same sentence or in that same instance? What are you disconnecting from? Because you're connecting to something, but you're also kind of relinquishing that access that you have to your own natural essence, to your own natural power, which Blue kind of touched upon. It's like, do we really need access to this particular development, this particular programming, in order to survive as a people, and not even survive but thrive? Do we need that, or do we already have that? Do we already have what that derives from, the natural essence of it? We are literally the original computer system. Blue talked about, our original, like, before we even, this metaverse even existed. If you want to get technical, before even the internet existed, before that was even created, we were already a very highly intelligent being. And if you look at the course of the world and the centuries, and how, like, systematic oppression lays out across the globe, and how technology lays out across the globe, we've got back to, like, ancient times where we have philosophy, mathematics, science-based principles, pyramids, being built, things of that nature. We have whole entire civilizations that have, tapped into information that we still, as a whole, struggle to even explain. Where does that come from? You know what I mean? And that was not something that was being developed or built. That showed up. And that's a piece of history that people like to kind of like skip over. And that's those questions that we just don't ask enough of. Where did that come from? If you take a look at, this goes into a whole nother plane of things. And, there's something else I want to touch upon that you said, Studi. But I would like to recommend the show Ancient Aliens. And I think they show that on Paramount or something like. No, not Paramount. I forget what platform it is, but it's called Ancient Aliens, and they talk about a lot of great topics there. When we get down to doctrine, right? When doctrine can be anything. Anything is doctrine, right? When we talk about the Bible, and the Bible talks about the angels coming down from the sky in chariots of fire. We're talking about an outside source coming and communicating with us, right? When we talk about the Dogen culture, and they talk about people, sky people, right, coming out of the sky and coming out of the bellies of fire breathing dragons, and so on and so forth, because this happens in multiple cultures right around the world, right, in these centuries, right, these ancient civilizations that we kind of sort of know about, right? But then we talk about the information that they brought, right? So these beings brought information. And then we look at the doctrine, right? Hieroglyphics. We look at statues, things that were developed in that time, and we look at the way that people were depicted. What did their bodies look like? These people oftentimes are depicted as with large enlarged heads, and almost like body armor type. And when you look at them from a 2021 standpoint, and we know what astronauts are, and when you look at the depiction of like birds and things in their sculptings, they look very I don't know how to explain it, but not the way that regular birds look. Regular birds have feathers and shit. And then we're talking about things that almost kind of look like an airplane or like a jet, right? Like a modern day government, like fighter jet. You know what I mean? A lot of those things
Yep, I
look
know
like that.
exactly what you're talking
And
about.
yeah, right. So when we is it safe to say, right, that in those times that we were already an advanced being, right? So we're talking about an even deeper sense of, and I think Blue kind of touched upon it, of a technological system, a deeper sense of a technological system that our souls live upon. So we're not even talking about this realm. So we're talking about beings coming into this realm, right? Or this world, I should say, and offering us information, right? And so now we have access to what natural energy, because pyramids embody natural energy, and that's something that is very hidden, right, from modern day information. And then just a world of information from those beings, right? Is it safe to say, when looking at the artifacts that they have, right, hieroglyphics and old sculptures and things of that nature, that these beings were people who were traveling the cosmos, not only through space but through time, right? And we're coming here to bring us access to the technological advancements that we already embody, right? So we're talking about beings coming from other planets, coming from other time periods, because time in on this planet is one thing, but time in the essence of the cosmos is a whole nother thing. Time in the cosmos isn't really based on the same factors that we do here as man. Then our calendars are based on something completely different. It just goes really deep, and when people break it down, we don't ever think about the holes that are in the doctrine that we have. And so we were already that energy before we came here. We were already that advanced before we came here. This is one depiction, and I like how Blue talked about it earlier as a hologram. We're living in the sense for the purposes of what evolution and experience, right? Learning, evolving. But we're computers. If you think about numbers in terms of the cosmos, we talk about like angel numbers and things like that, right? That's only surface level as to how deep numbers go in the cosmos. So we were computer based before Earth was even in creation. You went back to saying that Mother Earth was a divine feminine being. So as women, we have menstrual cycles, which is a regular cleansing system of our bodies. But we have to think about the societal standard at which we live. So we have a schedule, right? But the moon moves in its own schedule. So the moon represents feminine energy as well. And we are all affected as a public by the moon's energy. And it doesn't move on the same schedule, right? So she has a lunar cyclical cycle. And women struggle. We struggle. We experience internal pain. We experience, a lot of interruptions to the reproductive organs and the reproduction cycle. Oftentimes then you got the idea that we need, these medical advancements. So we have more hysterectomies happening than ever happened before, more C-sections happening than ever happened before. Why? What for? Why are our organs being removed from our bodies? For what? We are so interrupted. And that is exactly what I like to go back to when you talked about, Mother Earth having her own natural cycle. But now her natural cycle has been so far gone, interrupted, just like us women, we struggle so often because of that, that her body is now almost purging in a sense, right? And she is... yes, she is cleansing herself, but it's so far gone that she is almost transforming. And I do believe that this earth as we know it is dying. You know what I mean? She is going to die. Like you said, we are recycled energy. She is going to die. And we die and then we rebirth. But she is also going to, the essence of her is also going to transform. It's going to change, be recycled and rebirth into something new. And I don't believe it's something necessarily new. It's just something kind of like Blue said earlier, remembered, something that we already were before. We're in a reset. We're in a state of reset, in essence. That's where we're at. We've already been through these cycles and cycles and cycles and cycles. And if you break down the world and the centuries and all the things that we've experienced, we always go through cycles. We go through this period of high advancement, and then we go through this period of all of it being kind of taken away. And then we're in these states. So somebody mentioned in the comments us being in a poverty-stricken state, right? And that's what we always think, we're in a poverty-stricken state. But we've always been shown times through the course of history where we have had the utmost, technological advancements. So what we are there, it's just a replacement, and it's being puppeteered almost. You know what I mean? And when we go back to the original essence, we were all a part of an energy source. And so when we began to develop as souls, we were all like a family. You know what I mean? Not like, we are a family. We're a soul family. But what happened is, like you said, there is a double-edged sword to everything. So that's the essence of polarity, which I talk about all the time. Polarity and duality, right? So with every emotion, there is a counter emotion. With every anything, there is something to counter it. So we're talking about, like there's love versus hate, right? That's just one example. But when we talk about the good in the world, then we're talking about the bad in the world, is its duality, right? Where does that all come from? It comes from the natural essence of our souls. So the same way that there is a soul that's bringing good to the world, there is a soul puppeteering behind all of this matrix, metaverse, the original, matrix that this planet became for us in the first place, right? And why? Where does that come from? And that comes from duality. There is always one. Where there is one, there is always the other, right? We if we go back to the beginning of our existence, there was darkness. And we always talk about the light, right? Light did not exist before the darkness. It came out of the darkness. And so light therefore cannot exist without the darkness, right? So all of the good in the world cannot exist without the puppeteer in the background. So and this goes back to what I'm here for. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you completely just yanked it out of me, because this is something that I've sat on the fence about talking about, because people are so attached to rhetorics, and we are an embodiment of everything. And until we come to a full acceptance of who and what we are, it is going to be hard to grasp where we're headed and what we're capable of. um that puppeteer is us. You know what I mean? We are it. It is us. It's like that cousin that when we were growing up, that was like weird and bullied, and the parents didn't listen to him and whatever, and was just treated like shit for real. And then that cousin grows up and is a monster. You know what I mean? And or even kind of like what, like the killmonger. You get what I'm saying? So this soul is the killmonger of us, of what we naturally come from, is the killmonger, where we can all kind of look at Killmonger and we're like, okay, he's the villain, but we kind of get it. You get what I'm saying? Like, we kind of get it. Like, I kind of get it. You get what I'm saying? Like, we get it. So are we going to understand the essence of duality and what role we all play in it? Are we really separate from this? Are we really separate from it? And I think that's why we're coming to a place of reset, where Mother Nature is kind of like, we've now been almost destroyed. It's like we're destroying ourselves from the inside out, and that's how kind of I look at it. But we have the power now to replenish ourselves, to rebirth, to renew. And why? Because we have to accept that we are all of it. We are the duality. We are everything. Like you said, everything has its double-edged sword, but we want to attach to one thing. And that is why we become so dependent upon technology, because it offers us a shield. You know what I mean? A rose-colored glasses, a rose-colored view. And it goes much, much, much deeper than that. But we have the power to literally, we do not need any of these energy, these technological advancements. We don't need them. We are the technological advancement. We are the creator of the technology. We are the creator of everything. You and I, and and Blue and Cloxin, and probably a lot of the people that are tapping into this video, because when you reach information like this on the internet, you have already reached a certain level of understanding, or understanding. And so you are likely, and this is where I my purpose comes in the world, because there are tons of things you could stand behind, right? Whatever, pedophilia, the stealing of children, the kidnapping of children, whatever, domestic violence, the race war, whatever. For me, it's ancient souls, right? Because we are the stem of everything. And if you're here, you're probably a very ancient soul. You know what I mean? Because like Blue said, we left ourselves reminders. So when you watch certain things and you hear certain things and you interact with certain energies, certain people, you remember shit. Okay, those deja vu moments, those are not just deja vu moments. Those things where you're feeling something, that's not just a feeling. It's telepathy, it is memory, it is something in you, tapping into something that you already were, to remind you where you're headed. We have the ability to reset, but it isn't until we accept ourselves as a whole that we can do that, because we are the essence of all creation, comes from one source, and we are the essence of all duality. And until we can become one, it's almost like going back to that Kundalini, how it flows. but then we don't we want to take out the movement, right? Like in medical history, the answer used to be bed rest, right? It used to be bed rest. Well, the answer to that is bed rest, so you need to lay in the bed. But is that the answer? Because now we've learned how that creates welts and warts and blood clots and all these things, because our body needs movement, right? So does our kundalini, our energy. It needs movement. And if it is not moving, it is becoming blocked. It has blockages. It is becoming stagnant. So we're just we just haven't accepted a lot of parts of ourselves. And when we do that, then we open up those blockages. We unclog the system, because we're a natural technological system to begin with. We come from a source of energy, before we were anything else and took any other form. And when we tap into that natural energy, we are the embodiment of all of it. So we end up flowing. We get the flow. Then that's where things like manifestation and creation and stuff like that comes into play, because then we understand how that actually works. We're not creating on the basis that this is going to be the way. We're creating on the basis that there is no way, and there is endless way, and it is limitless, but it is nothing at all. You know what I mean? It all ties in together. And when we understand that, then we are in the true embodiment of creation, in the true embodiment of you know what technology looks like. And we literally can create anything and source anything, because we've already done it. Everything we're here doing, our bodies are a creation that we already created. That we were a whole different being before we were this one. You get what I'm saying? Like, then going back to anime and cartoon and all that stuff, those things, and even mythological stories in history, and even fantasy and stuff like fairies and dragons and nagas and uh what are those things, griffins and fucking centaurs and shit like that. Those things are all what we think it's like fantasy. No, somebody didn't come up with that. Those are ancient old stories. We were those things before we were human beings. These bodies are just a form that we've taken. And they're so
Mhm.
small because they've been placed in a box. But we were never in a box to begin with. We were out there in the dark space, and we were massive. And we were, when you think about like titans in ancient history, we were titans. We were massive people, huge people. When you think about trees, and they were living, right, and they were talking, and they were breathing, and they were big. Then we can kind of get a grasp of us having been, you know, the giant ass reptiles and dragons, you know what I mean, before we were anything else. And then we go into a whole nother set of things. But that's what it all boils back to. It all boils back to our natural
Yeah.
existence, and are we going to be able to get back to that or remember that?
Some people say that like mountains are petrified, like remains of wood of like giant trees that used to be here. And I also want to add that, like, because I want to hop on what you said about puppeteering, and then we're gonna let everybody have their last say, and then we're gonna end this because we're almost at two hours. I always say that the biggest spell that ever happened in history was Abrahamic religions, because it has convinced people for thousands upon thousands of years that eh, um, the personification of evil, which is Satan, will rule the world and take over and blah 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 for 1,000 years or however long it was supposed to happen. That concept has been implanted from generation to generation to generation to generation. So we are all on that frequency. We have all accepted that reality, and this is that manifestation. What we are enduring and what we have been enduring for hundreds and thousands of years is because we have accepted that reality. One thing I want to make sure that everybody knows before I let everybody else say their last word is that life is not worse or better than it has been for however many incarnations. It's literally the same life. The only reason why we feel like it is worse out here is because we have put words onto actions and we have identified what these things are, and we're constantly shown the images. We're constantly seeing police killings. We're constantly hearing about rapes. We're constantly seeing fight videos. We're constantly getting fear based like about medicines and just all that. It's only because we're overly stimulated. But life in general is exactly the same way it's always been. There's always been murders. It's always been rapes. It's always been disease. It's always been love. It's always been communities, families. It's always been inventions. It's everything is exactly the same. If you think about it, even Star Trek had flat screen TVs on it. If you watch the Odyssey, that space movie, they had tablets. Like everything, there's literally that old adage of there's nothing new under the sun. It's literally that. Like the Queen was saying, there are hieroglyphs of, there's even hieroglyphs of Wi-Fi signals and light bulbs and everything. It's just that more than likely, as we grow in technology and lose out on spirituality, we eventually become dumb and dependent on technology, and then somebody makes a dumb decision to blow us all up, and then we start over again. And we are, uh, fortunately, we are at a point where we're at that crossroads where either we'll destroy ourselves or we'll become utopia. That's where we're at. We're at that crossroads that we have been at over countless of incarnations over and over again. So it's not like I have to train myself to remember that. Like there was like people act like human trafficking is just some new phenomenon where in the 70s people were known to hitchhike and never be seen again. Why do we pretend like that's not a thing? What was the slave trade? What was, even if people say like, oh no, there was only a little bit of Africans taken, so what? They were still kidnapped. Like everything is the same. And what about the medicines and the shamans? There's always been people highly connected to source. There's always been shamans and medicine men and women and healers and diviners. Like it's always been that. There's always been shrooms. There's always been weed, opiates. We're literally in the same exact matrix hologram that we've always been in. Like I said, we are neutrons. We are neutral. We decide what we are stimulated by. And we cannot forget, too, that we chose the lessons we have to learn, and we chose our parents, what we're going to go through. We did all of that before. We are on a soul contract to learn however many cycles it takes to get the lessons so we can vibrate back to the source. That is what all of this is about. Learning those lessons to where we can vibrate back to the source and be actually with one instead of tapping into the all, we will become the all. Because, like she said, we are all connected. We are all connected to that one source. My uncle talks about, I'm not going to specifically get into details because he knows more about it than me, but he was saying that I believe on a subatomic level that there is a receiver, a one-way receiver connected to each and every person. And one day I'll have him come up here so he can actually like break it down. But he said that there's a one-way receiver that comes from the cosmos onto every single being on this planet, and that has to be the one source. It has to be. So I just, even though this has kind of been a balance of negative and positive stimuli with the information, I just want y'all to know that we have been through this before, just like the Queen has said, and we will figure it out. And it's not doom and gloom, it's just precautionary because, like I said, we've done this before. Deja vu ain't no game. It's literally like check. I see deja vu as checkpoints in life's game. You have reached a certain level. Boom. You've been here before. And that's all I
Opening
want
up
to
that
say.
safe.
Exactly. And now I'm gonna let y'all I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and say y'all last word to the people, and then we gonna end this.
Okay. I'm gonna say my last piece. Well, that was powerful. I don't even know if I can come behind that, but what I will say is I'm gonna start with what Sudi was saying, and I'll go to what Renee was saying. Uh, I like what he said. What when it comes to the overall perspective of the world is always the same. It's just our perspective of it, and I believe that for the longest time because you see people on the news who are like millionaires, but they're depressed and they commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? And you got people who are poor who are depressed, but you got people who are poor who are as happy as ever. You got rich people who are happy as ever. So it's like how are you depressed when you're rich, or how are you depressed if you're poor? You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's all in the perspective of how you see things. So if someone could be happy even in the destruction of the world, it's like wow, the world itself is the same. It's just how we perceive it. So that just changed my perspective on a lot of things and the perspective of myself and how I look at things. Because, like I said, in the name Cloxen, I try to embody balance as much as possible. And bouncing off of what Renee was saying with the duality and everything, it just reassured me even more about the attributes that I try to live by every day. And now it kind of lifts a little burden off of myself about when I indulge in things like anime and whatnot. I always look at well, recently coming into my spiritual awakening, I would look at it as a bad thing because a lot of the spiritual teachers talk about detachment and you shouldn't watch anything. But listening to her really reassured some of my own personal thoughts of this is actually just a reflection of life itself because they have to come from somewhere. A writer had to think of the concept. Where did they get the concept from? So you keep going back, those concepts are real and they're just refurbished and reoriented to this fantasy type thing. But why do we connect to it so much? Why do we love it so much? So I always had those thoughts in the back of my head, but I didn't really have anyone to reassure me. So she just reassured me. So I just feel so much better in that, and that I can still live by the duality of um, of everything. Like there's a good, but if there's a good, there's a bad, and then vice versa. So as evil as the world looks, there has to be someone that just embodies a pure, righteous spirit. So, and as tiny as that, I would not want to meet Renee's counterpart. I'll just say that out rip because the amount of energy she's giving me, she is such a positive, righteous soul. So I wouldn't even want to imagine the opposite of her. I really don't. So, but yeah, I just want to say that. I want to thank you guys for inviting me on here. That was just my 2 cents on everything, and I want to close out with that. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think I'll go ahead and say my last words because I know Blue is going to leave us with a bang. Um, but I just want to say thank you, Cloxen, for the words that you said. They really mean a lot to me on a soul level. And all I can say is if you only knew, because I do remember a lot. And so, but I also honor the process because that's the whole essence of being in the moment. Everybody needs their process. And just to bounce off of that, and before I say that, we kind of find ourselves in the right places at the right times when we get away from attaching to what is and what isn't and what's wrong and what's right. And we just allow ourselves to be what we are, you know what I mean, and who we are. But to bounce off of that, Sudi, you talked about, man, you talked about a lot of things. But to take it a step further, as far as us being at a crossroads, I want to leave my last statement at the idea that we are in a state of both destroying ourselves and rebirthing and renewing ourselves. And that is really the crossroads that we're at. And it is, like you said, Cloxen, an idea of perception. Where are you at? And how do you see yourself? And what is your part and your role in all of this? Because there is no is or isn't or right or wrong. We are all of it. And there is a piece that everyone is of the entire puzzle, and everyone's piece is necessary. So there are going to be those that choose to destroy themselves, and there will be those that choose to rebirth and re-elevate and renew and rejuvenate. And that's literally what I want to leave it with. So thank you so much, dude, for having me here. This was a dope ass conversation. I think a conversation that many people need to hear. I didn't know what I was walking into when I walked in, but like I said, when we allow ourselves to just be, we just kind of get led to exactly where we need to be when we need to be there. It was really nice to meet you, Cloxon and Blue. You guys are dope ass souls. Ancient, might I add. And, you know, thank you for all the wisdom and knowledge that you all have dropped. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same
Indeed.
here. Like, I'm also honored to have met y'all. I'm definitely gonna be tapping in here, as of late. But yeah, man, this is it. We here. Like, we're in the times that are going to basically dictate what the next millennium is going to be seeing in their history books. So whether we know it or not, we we playing a big part in the movement of the world's course right now. So the best thing to do for everybody is to go within, find out your niche, get great at it, and then start showing other people either how you got to that point or how they can get themselves to their apex.
That's fire. That's so fire. And yeah, I just want to thank each and every one of you, my panelists. Y'all are amazing. Y'all are so intelligent, and the perspective is just wow. I couldn't have asked for a better panel. You know, everybody with their perspective and their expertise, and even just the natural flow of the conversation like this. This was really, really great. And I haven't done a panel in so long on this channel. And the fact that we just hit the ground running like that, I really appreciate that. Um, yeah, like that's it. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Uh, thank you to those who's gonna watch this later, who's been watching now. They never actually tell me how many of y'all are watching, but I appreciate each and every one of you. So yeah, man, I don't really have nothing else to say. This was a really great show, and I look forward to having another one. I hope y'all are down to come back up here. I do not want us to leave without people getting your social media. So really, really quickly, tell the people your social medias, and then you can click out. And then I'm going to try to play this song for everybody. If not, it'll probably just like mess up, and I'll end up ending the broadcast on a on an awkward note. But either way, I want to make sure that everybody can reach y'all, and y'all make sure that y'all like, share, and subscribe to the channel and with the video, and y'all make sure y'all go ahead and go to their social medias, because everybody here on this panel has information that is crucial, and these are dope people. So I'm gonna mute myself, and y'all please quickly just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, okay. So y'all can find me over at Instagram at Cloxon. I keep it simple. The same name right here is just like it's spelled, Cloxon. You can find me over on Twitter. And I have a multiple different YouTube channels, but you can just subscribe to my vlog channel. That's where I do a lot of my just general talking about random topics and whatnot, spirituality and a lot of other things. And so yeah, that's it. It's Cloxon around the board. Anytime you see me on Twitch, YouTube, anything, it's Cloxon. Keep it simple. So, or actually, this is the proper piece. Peace.
Uh, I'm kind of the same. I got the same name everywhere you find music. Also YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blah blah blah. But yeah, man, follow Studi though.
Thank you. you again so much, dude, for having me here. I like to consider my website my hub. It is reneeintune.com, exactly how it's spelled here, RENEEINTUNE. And on that site, you can find links to all of my social medias. But if you're on your social media sites, you can just type in Renee Intune at Renee Intune on Instagram and Renee Intune on all other platforms. I won't say all other platforms because I'm still learning about some of these platforms out here, but I am on Facebook, IG, Twitter, YouTube, and now newly on Clubhouse. So that is how you can reach me. Thank you so much. Peace.
All right, y'all. So there you have it. The panelists. Y'all once again make sure y'all go ahead and support them and support the channel. It's me, Studi Too Groovy, baby. Yeah. I told y'all I was back. I thought I was playing. I told y'all I was back. This episode has been sponsored by myself. If you have not purchased the book, you can go on Amazon. This is The Junk and Junk Food, a comprehensive look at corner store chemistry, where I basically just break down all of the ingredients and chemicals that are placed in our junk foods at our corner stores, and I give information about the history of like why that actually like why companies are able to do that, to put chemicals that they know that are known carcinogens and toxic in our food. So if you are interested in that and kind of like wanting a book of why you shouldn't eat junk food, there you go right here. I'm gonna show y'all once again, and it's on Amazon. The links are in the description. What I'm about to do is try to play you the newest song that I have released. It is called Motherland. It is by AJ and myself. If this freezes, all you have to do is just go to my page and you can still listen to it because it is officially on YouTube now. So, but I'm gonna try my hardest to let y'all enjoy the song. So let's try it. Let's try it out.
It ain't hard to see that you got other plans coming straight from the motherland. It ain't hard to see that you got plans. It ain't rocket science, but I'm a clever man. Thorough in the flesh, straight from the motherland. Thanks to you, thanks to you. I'm a better man. Thought about it, you won't get another chance. It ain't hard to see that you got other plans. Thanks to you, thanks to you. I'm a better man. Thorough in the flesh, straight from the motherland. Don't take it personal. Business before pleasure. Go with your first instinct. You know these niggas jealous. Reality is they really out to kill us. Stop acting like you're here to help us. You ain't got shit to tell us. So what's next? Tell everybody I'm rebellious. Drug dealer for a role model. Now they killers. They ain't got no guidance, so they all failures. If your list not hit, man, I'm trying to tell you something is horribly wrong. They ain't trying to scare us. Walking around on eggshells, whole world nervous. If they really care, coasters would have served you purpose. I ain't got no time, no waste. I ain't in no rush. Yes, you can be touched. Play pussy, get fucked. I just play that hand that God dealt me. Something ain't right, or else you wouldn't have left me. Money.
Um, yeah, just I don't know why it's messing up like that. The YouTube ghost is messing up. So I'll just tell y'all to go ahead and go on my channel, and you can actually listen to the full song without it stopping and starting. But it's called Motherland. And yeah, so I'm actually just gonna end it the same way that I usually do. Let me see. This has been messing up today. Man, what the fuck?